So we are officially on Act 4. A lot went down in Act 3. We had a couple people get murked. We had a marriage get planned. Paris is going to marry Juliet in a few days, so we have to figure out how we're going to fix that problem because technically, she's already married. And so then Act 4, we're going to start kind of seeing the effects of the actions in Act 3. And Act 4 moves pretty quickly. The scenes are pretty short, so we're going to just kind of roll through these. Act 4, we're in Friar Lawrence's cell. So at the end of Act 3, that's when, the nurse said, Juliet, hon, you might as well just marry Paris. You don't have any other options. Romeo's gone anyway. I mean, what's the big deal? And Juliet's like, okay, yeah, sure. And then the nurse leaves and she's like, no. I will figure out a way out of this or I will die. Okay. So Act 4, Scene 1, we're in Friar Lawrence's cell. Friar Lawrence in Paris are talking. So Friar Lawrence says, on Thursday, sir, the time is very short. Paris, my father, Capulet, will have it so, and I am nothing slow to slack his haste. Friar Lawrence says, you say you do not know the lady's mind. Uneven is the course, I like it not. So Friar Lawrence knows that Juliet's already married, and so technically he cannot marry Juliet to Paris because he has already married Juliet to someone else. So he's having issues where he has to be like, oh, this isn't a good idea because it's too soon, but also, cough, cough, she's already married. So he's trying to figure out a way around this. Okay, so Paris says, immoderately she weeps for Tybalt's death, and therefore I little talked of love, for Venus smiles not in the house of tears. Now, sir, her father counts it dangerous that she doth do give her sorrow so much sway, and in his wisdom hastes our marriage, to stop the inundation of her tears, which too much minded by herself alone may be put from her by society. Now, do you know the reason of this haste? So here he describes the reason that they're getting married so quickly because they want Juliet not to be sad about Tybalt anymore, even though we know that she's sad about Romeo. This is a really good example of dramatic irony, okay, because we already know these things, but most of the characters don't. Friar Lawrence, this is an aside, says, I would I knew not why it should be slowed. Look, sir, here comes the lady toward my cell, and then Juliet comes in. Paris says, happily met, my lady and my wife. Juliet says, that may be, sir, when I may be a wife. Paris, that may be must be, love, on Thursday next. Juliet, what must be shall be. Friar Lawrence says, that's a certain text. Paris says, come ye to make confession to this father? Juliet, to answer that I should confess to you. Paris, do not deny to him that you love me. Juliet, I will confess to you that I love him. Paris, so will ye, I am sure, that you love me. Juliet says, if I do so, it will be of more price being spoke behind your back than to your face. She's trying to avoid saying that she loves him. Paris says, poor soul, thy face is much abused with tears. Juliet, the tears have got small victory by that, for it was bad enough before their spite. Paris says, thou wrongest it more than tears with that report. Juliet says, that is no slander, sir, which is a truth, and what I spake it to my face. Thy face is mine, and thou hast slandered it. So, if you look over here, up here, he says, tears have ruined your face or whatever. And Juliet says, the tears haven't ruined my face. It wasn't beautiful before. And he says, don't talk badly about yourself because now you're mine. And that's talking badly about something that's mine. Blah, 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 whatever. Juliet says, it may be so, for it is not mine own. Are you at leisure, Holy Father, now, or shall I come to you at evening mass? Friar Lawrence says, my leisure serves me, pensive daughter, now. My lord, we must entreat the time alone. So he says, okay, Paris, you have to leave because I need to talk to Juliet. Paris says, God shield, I should disturb devotion. Juliet, on Thursday early will I rouse ye. Then, till then, adieu, and keep this holy kiss. And then he leaves. Okay? Then Juliet says, oh, shut the door, and when thou hast done so, come weep with me. Past hope, past cure, past help. So now she's really just letting the tears flow. Friar Lawrence says, ah, Juliet, I already know thy grief. It strains me past the compass of my wits. I hear thou must, and nothing may prorogue it, on Thursday next, be married to this county. Juliet says, tell me not, friar, that thou hearest of this, unless thou tell me how I may prevent it. If in thy wisdom thou canst give no help, do thou but call my resolution wise, and with this knife I'll help it presently. So she pulls out a knife and says, if you can't help me, I'm going to kill myself. Then she says, God joined my heart and Romeo's, thou our hands, and ere this hand by thee to Romeo sealed shall be the label to another deed. Or my true heart with treacherous revolt turned to another, this shall slay them both. Therefore, out of thy long experienced time, give me some present counsel, or behold, twixt my extremes, and me this bloody knife shall play the umpire, arbitrating that which the commission of thy years and art could to no issue of true honor bring. Be not so long to speak, I long to die. If what thou speakest, speak not of remedy. Poor Friar Lawrence is just spending all of his time trying to get these two kids not to kill themselves. Friar Lawrence says, Hold, daughter, I do spy a kind of hope which craves as desperate an execution as that is desperate which we would prevent. If, rather than to marry County Paris, thou hast the strength of will to slay thyself, then it is likely thou wilt undertake a thing like death to chide away this shame, that copest with death himself to escape from it. And if thou darest, I'll give thee remedy. He's like, I have a solution. It's a little extreme, but not as extreme as killing yourself. Okay, Juliet says, Oh, bid me leap rather than marry Paris from off the battlements of yonder tower. I'd rather jump off a tower than marry him. Or walk in thievish ways, or bid me lurk where serpents are. Chain me with roaring bears, or shut me nightly in the charnel house, or covered quite with dead men's rattling bones, with reeky shanks and yellow chapless skulls, or bid me go into a new-made grave, and hide me with a dead man in his shroud. Things that, to hear them told, have made me tremble, and I will do it without fear or doubt, to live an unstained wife to my sweet love. She's like, I'll do whatever you want me to do. Okay, so this is the part where Friar Lawrence is going to outline the whole plan of how Juliet's going to get out of this marriage. He says, Hold then, go home, be merry, give consent to marry Paris. So he says, go home and pretend to be okay with this. Okay, he says, Wednesday is tomorrow. Tomorrow night, look that thou lie alone. Let not the nurse lie with thee in thy chamber. So make sure you go to bed alone. Take thou this vial, being then to bed, and this distilled liquor drink thou off, when presently through all thy veins shall run a cold and drowsy humor. For no pulse shall keep his native progress, but surcease. No warmth, no breath shall testify thou livest. The roses in thy lips and cheeks shall fade to paly ashes. So she's going to drink this potion, and it's going to make her look and seem dead. Okay, her face is going to go pale. The roses in thy lips and cheek will fade. Thy eyes' windows fall like death when he shuts up the day of life. Each part deprived of supple government shall, stiff and stark and cold, appear like death. And in this borrowed likeness of shrunk death, thou shalt continue 42 hours, and then awake as from a pleasant sleep. So it's supposed to last a couple of days. Now when the bridegroom in the morning comes to rouse thee from thy bed, there art thou dead. Then, as the manner of our country is, in thy best robes uncovered on the bier, thou shalt be borne to that same ancient vault, where all the kindred of Capulets lie. In the meantime, against thou shall wake, shall Romeo by my letters know our drift. So this potion's going to make her look dead. They're going to think she's dead, and they're going to take her to the vault. They're going to bury her. Now back then they didn't really bury people. They just put them in one of those vaults. And then while she's quote unquote dead, Friar Lawrence is going to send a letter to Romeo explaining all of this, everything that's going on. Okay, and hither shall he come. So then he'll come back to Verona. And he and I will watch thy waking, and that very night shall Romeo bear thee hence to Mantua. So when you wake up, we're going to sneak you out of Verona, and you're both going to go live in Mantua together. And this shall free thee from the present shame, if no inconstant toy nor womanish fear abate thy valor in the acting as. He's like, if you're brave enough to do this, I think this is going to work. Juliet says, Give me, oh, tell me not of fear. Friar Lawrence says, Hold, get you gone, be strong and prosperous in this resolve. I'll send a friar with speed to Mantua with my letters to thy lord. Juliet says, Love, give me strength, and strength shall help afford. Farewell, dear father. And that is the end of scene 1. So basically the most important part of scene 1 is the whole plan, okay? You have to know that she is going to agree to marry Paris. She's going to go home and go to bed, and she's going to drink this potion because her family has to think that nothing's wrong. She drinks this potion that makes her appear dead. She'll get quote-unquote buried in the vault, and then Friar Lawrence will send a letter explaining to Romeo what's going on, and then they're going to take her from Verona to Mantua, where they can live happily ever after. The end. Scene 2 is at the Capulet house. Lady Capulet, Capulet nurse, and serving men. Capulet says, So many guests invite as here are writ. So this whole part at the beginning we're going to kind of skip through. It's about preparing for the wedding and making sure that the food is good. So there's some comic relief here where they're talking about, fat cooks and how fat cooks are the better ones because they eat their own food, etc., etc. So we're going to skip ahead just a little bit. So then Capulet down here says, "We shall be much unfurnished for this time. What, is my daughter gone to Friar Lawrence?" The nurse says, "Aye, forsooth." Now remember the last time we saw Capulet, he was furious with Juliet. He says, "Either you are going to marry this boy or you can die on the streets for all I care." Okay, so Capulet says, "Well, he may chance to do some good on her. A peevish, self-willed harlotry it is." He's still calling her names. Juliet comes in, and the nurse says, "See where she comes from shrift with Mary, look." Capulet, "How now, my headstrong, where have you been gadding?" Juliet says, "Where I have learnt me to repent the sin of disobedient opposition to you and your behests, and am enjoined." So she tells her father she went to confession to ask for forgiveness for disobeying him or for not being grateful. "By holy Lawrence, to fall prostrate here, to beg your pardon. Pardon, I beseech you. Henceforward I am ever ruled by you." Capulet says, "Send for the county, go tell him of this. I'll have this knot knit up tomorrow morning." He's like, "Good, we'll get the wedding done tomorrow." Juliet says, "I met the youthful lord at Lawrence's cell, and I gave him what become love I might, not stepping o'er the bounds of modesty." Capulet says, "Why, I am glad on it. This is well. Stand up. This is as it should be. Let me see the county. I, Mary, go, I say, and fetch him hither. Now afore God, this reverend holy friar, all our whole city is much bound to him." Juliet says, "Nurse, will you go with me into my closet to help me sort such needful ornaments as you can think fit to furnish me tomorrow? Help me pick something to wear." Lady Capulet now enters the conversation. She says, "No, not till Thursday. There is time enough." There is time enough. And then Capulet says, "Go, nurse, go with her will to church tomorrow." So they've actually just gone ahead and moved up the wedding, even though originally he said, "No, tomorrow's too early," and then he's like, "Yeah, we'll just do it tomorrow." So then Juliet and the nurse leave, and Lady Capulet says, "We shall be short in our provision. 'Tis now near night." Capulet says, "Tush, I will stir about, and all things shall be well, I warrant thee, wife. Go now to Juliet, help to deck her up. I'll not to bed tonight. Let me alone. I'll play the housewife for this once. What ho, they are all forth. Well, I will walk myself to County Paris and prepare him up against tomorrow. My heart is wondrous light, since the same wayward girl is so reclaimed." So now he's, stoked. And that's it for scene 2. Scene 2 is very short. All you need to know for scene 2 is that she told her dad, sorry for not wanting to marry Paris. And he's like, "Awesome, then we'll just get married tomorrow." So they moved up the wedding. Scene 3 is also pretty short. We're in Juliet's bedroom with Juliet and the nurse. Juliet says, "Aye, those attires are best, but gentle nurse, I pray thee leave me to myself tonight, for I have need of many orisons, to move the heavens to smile upon my state, which, well thou knowest, is cross and full of sin." So she says, I need to be alone tonight. Lady Capulet comes in and says, "What, are you busy, ho? Need you of my help?" Juliet says, "No, madam, we have cold such necessaries as are behooveful for our state tomorrow. So please you, let me now be left alone, and let the nurse this night sit up with you, for I am sure you have your hands full, and all in this so sudden business." Lady Capulet says, "Good night, get thee to bed and rest, for thou hast need." So then Juliet's by herself, so she has a little soliloquy here, and she's going to go back and forth a little bit with this potion thing because it's pretty nerve-wracking because she doesn't actually know if it's going to work or not. Maybe it won't work at all. Maybe it'll kill her. Maybe, you never know. So Juliet says, "Farewell. God knows when we shall meet again. I have a faint cold fear thrills through my veins that almost freezes up the heat of life. I'll call them back again to comfort me. Nurse," what should she do here? "My dismal scene I needs must act alone." So she almost wants them to come back and sit with her because she's nervous. She says, "Come, Vial. What if this mixture do not work at all? Shall I be married then tomorrow morning? No, this shall forbid it. Lie thou there." So she puts her dagger down next to her just in case she wakes up in the morning. So if the potion doesn't work, she's going to end it herself. And then she says, "What if it be a poison which the friar subtly has ministered to have me dead, lest in this marriage he should be dishonored, because he married me before to Romeo?" So she said, "Well, what if Friar Lawrence wants to kill me? Because if he marries me to Paris, then he would be dishonored, because he's already married me to someone else. I fear it is, yet methinks it should not, for he hath still been tried a holy man. How if, when I am laid in the tomb, I wake before the time that Romeo come to redeem me? There's a fearful point. Shall I not then be stifled in the vault, to whose foul mouth no healthsome air breathes in, and there dies strangled ere my Romeo comes. So she's like, what if I wake up too early and I die in that vault? Or if I live, is it not very like the horrible conceit of death and night, together with the terror of the place, as in a vault of ancient receptacle, where for this many 100 years the bones of all my buried ancestors are packed, where bloody Tybalt, yet but green in earth, lies festering in his shroud, where, as they say, at some hours in the night spirits resort. Alack, alack! Is it not like that I, so early waking, with what loathsome smells and shrieks like mandrakes torn out of the earth, that living mortals, hearing them, run mad? Oh, if I wake, shall I not be distraught, environed with all these hideous fears, and madly play with my forefather's joints, and pluck the mangled Tybalt from his shroud, and in this rage, with some great kinsman's bones, as with a club, dash out my desperate brains? She's like, if I wake up early, I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to be playing with my ancestors' bones. I'm going to be, going mad and insane. And then she says, oh, look, methinks I see my cousin's ghost seeking out Romeo, that did spit his body upon a rapier's point. Stay, Tybalt, stay. Romeo, I come. This do I drink to thee. And then she drinks the potion, and she falls onto her bed. And that is the end of scene 3. So for scene 3, Juliet is worried about the potion, but she takes it anyway. Scene 4, we're at the Capulets' house. Lady Capulet and the nurse come in, and the Lady Capulet says, hold, take these keys and fetch more spices, nurse. The nurse says they call for dates and quinces in the pastry. Capulet says, come, stir, 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 the second cock hath crowed, the curfew bell hath rung, 'tis 3 o'clock, look to the baked meats, good Angelica, spare not for cost. The nurse says, go, you cot queen, go, get you to bed. Faith, you'll be sick tomorrow for this night's watching. So they're still preparing for the wedding. Little do they know it's not going to happen. Capulet says, no, not a whit. What, I have been watched ere now all night for lesser cause, and ne'er been sick. Lady Capulet says, aye, you have been a mouse hunt in your time, but I will watch you from such watching now. Then the Lady Capulet and the nurse exit, and Capulet says, a jealous hood, a jealous hood. And now this whole part is also kind of joking, and this is also a little bit of comic relief, because we know that something serious is about to happen. So, Shakespeare wanted to kind of break up the tension a little bit and kind of prepare the audience. So at the end, we're going to skip that part. At the end, Capulet says, go waken Juliet, go and trim her up. I'll go and chat with Paris. Hi, make haste, the bridegroom, he is come already. Make haste, I say. And that's it for scene 4. So scene 4, you need to know that they're preparing for the wedding, and it's supposed to serve as comic relief.